Thinking outside of the box creativity, I was just reading a great new Scientific American talking about 40,000 years ago, they think that all of a sudden we got creative. And the latest information we're finding is even the Neanderthals are making glue out of tar to glue their axe handles on 200,000 years ago. And that to me, this is thinking outside of the box. We're at this place where in our modern culture, we're surrounded by so much energy, so much input of information, so much stuff going on. We're not even qualified to absorb this, and I wonder sometimes that in a way it's a very intense life to live in that creative fast lane now because there's so much coming at you. And at the core of it all has to be this desire to create. And I know you're wired the same way, to see somebody light up and have an understanding of that creativity is sort of what drives me to do this every day, and it also drives me to teach and pay it forward. And I think it's another reason why we're doing this. We talk sometimes about the so many years of experience between us, maybe 80 years, maybe more than that, of pursuing this creative goal, creating every day. You get up and you create. And sometimes I have to tell people creation isn't free. It costs a lot. It's not like you can just get up every day. And it's like writing songs. If you do it every day, you get better at it. You stay on top of it. But creating every day for a living can be some long, cold days. But your perspective on this, you speak very eloquently about being sort of at this point of our careers, and you've always been a person who connects people. You get a big thrill out of connecting people who can do great work together, and you have some brilliant things to say about this. Earlier today we were talking about this, just kicking it around, the idea of our perspective and looking a little bit back and still looking forward. It's an amazing thing.
It's just being inspired. You know what I mean? Like, where do you get your inspiration from? And the stuff that we've gathered is now we're able to like open up and show. I mean, when you see a musician play, you're seeing a musician getting their music out on this instrument. So when I go to talk or tell somebody, it's like, hi, I'm a musician, because now through all these years I've become an accumulation of all these things. I'm a musician, but this is the instrument that I get my music out on, which is the bass. So there is no limitations, because nowadays there's so many people quick to go, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't, what are you doing? And you know what? Between that and the peer pressure and all the media and all that, you can get lost. You can do anything that you put your mind to, and it's better to create out of now it's better to play out of feeling good or being inspired or out of passion versus out of hurt and anger. But that's also can fuel you too. And that's one of the first, I'll show you guys, man, I'll do it, you know what I mean? And, after a while, it's not really healthy, but it shows you that you can do that. But then there's other things too. So just to be, to be inspired, and what inspires you and what can make things go, and that you can't. Nothing's impossible. It's up to you. Sometimes knowing too much about something stops you.
Paying what I have forward, trying to find a way to transmit this to people in a joyful way, and to keep this ball rolling. Because I'm just one cell in a history of cellular people from the time of Stradivarius till now, pushing the rock forward. And then the next person takes that rock and puts it forward. So, the essence of creativity still fascinates me. Where does this fire to do this come from? Well, I've watched you do things where you read a situation. Why are all your friends from Stanford, and why are they all PhDs? It's because, a lot of them, not me, but it's because you're an incredibly bright and perceptive guy. But, when you leave yourself open to this, there are some days when we talk to each other when I know you're just hurting because the Earth's hurting. Or the world's hurting. I know when the planet is hurting, it comes through you in a way. So to me, to be a creative artist in many ways is to learn to open yourself up to accept all of this stuff through you. Not to say you have to suffer to create great art, but you have to open yourself. So the language of music, you talk about music in a way nobody else does.
Yeah, and if you're talking to some people, you might as well say that I had lunch with Santa Claus, and can I give my unicorn some water? Because they look at you like, what the
I put the unicorn out in the back today.
Yeah, it's just like, and that's, it just takes time, to gather all these things, and what does it mean to you and stuff. And a lot of times it's not even about you.
It actually isn't about you.
You know what I mean? Once you get a beat on it, it isn't about you. Ish, because making music is communication and playing, and how does everybody sound together?
That's really true.
Not individual achievement kind of trip.
It's a real interesting observation.
And playing bass is that kind of thing, because it's that kind of thing where you're trying to pull everything together and make everybody sound like they're playing together.
You know, it just occurred to me, just like you have always told me, you know, I want to connect this person with this person so this happens. That is kind of your role in many situations in a band, isn't it? I mean, you're trying to connect all of these elements and with the, you know, with this incredible tapestry that ties it all together. I never thought about that till this very moment, live here on live action, as the wild man would say. You know?
Because that's what we're trying to, like, as a whole. It's not like a sporting event where there's always going to be somebody that stands out and this and that, but how does it sound as a whole? Because that's chemistry now. You know what I mean? And that's why, you know, music slows down, it speeds up. The reason why a lot of people go, man, music doesn't sound the same, because people used to do it together, and there wasn't, you know, Pro Tools where they were fixing everything. It was, everybody got excited, somebody slowed it down, somebody sped up, and it was a chemistry, and all of a sudden it made this emotion.
Taking where the rubber meets the road, where science meets the aesthetic, where numbers meet what turns us on, and just making music for their whole lives. These people, whether they're famous, they're not, whether they're, you know, a lot of my friends who chose other careers, and some of my great playing friends. You know, that to me is just really important. You know, when you talk about playing, you talk often about, you know, you hang a note here and you come back and get it, you hang a note here, you'll put a note here. When we first started working on this bass project, I had to take some time to learn what you meant, because some of the things you said just changed my way of looking at music. You know, I always, makes me think of the piano player who was hit over the head and all of a sudden can play. He was never a piano player, now he's a concert pianist. Right. He says he sees white squares passing in front of his eyes, and they tell him what to do. He's terrified that the doctors will fix him and they'll take away his musical gifts.
Just leave me alone, right. You know, they'll fix it, yeah.
But when you talk about, you know, hanging notes and hanging tones and dimensional music, which you always talk about. I think everybody understands that.
If I was doing harmonics, it would be...
You can hear them.
It's hanging out and it moves, right?
It's doing this.
That's why I want to. All right, that kind of. And when I do that, all of a sudden it goes.
Yeah, you know, I never thought of music. You turned my vision of music from black and white to color. You know, because you really did that for me. You know, I listened. I mean, my whole life went to music school, for God's sake. But when you started talking about hanging those tones, it's really part of the reason why this bass, you know, came to being. Because I started thinking dimensionally about. I saw that, like you say, I saw the Matrix.
And it does all that, because down here, if I hit it. You can get it to settle. You can take weird notes like, you know,